Welcome back to College Football Addiction. Going to talk a little Colorado, Kansas State. I've got Jay from the Prime Time for College Football. We appreciate BetUS for their support. Jay, how you doing today, man?
Man, I'm doing all right, man. Excited to talk about the Buffs, man. They've got a lot of good things cooking over there in Boulder.
Yeah, this game, and there's a lot of big ones left, but this game feels like the litmus test of is Colorado for real? Are they really about to compete for some things, or have they just been fortunate with some of the teams they play? What is going on here? And I certainly don't think a loss eliminates them. It would be their first Big 12 loss. There's plenty of carnage going on in the Big 12. But the Big 12 has never looked more winnable for Colorado. And to me, this is the toughest game left on their schedule. The hype levels around this game, and maybe it's just me, I don't, Buffs fans, let us know down in the comments. But the hype levels around this, to me, just feel off the charts. Not quite post TCU last year or anything like that. But to me, if Colorado wins this, you've got to start talking about them with a trip to the Big 12 championship possible, a trip to the playoff possible, obviously, if you win that. So this game just feels massive to me.
Yeah, it's huge. And this is going to be an opportunity for the Buffs to prove that they deserve to be not only considered for the Big 12 championship, just to be ranked in general, right? Like right now, they're not ranked in the top 25. They're just outside of it. I think they got 3 votes from the AP to be even ranked. And to be honest, after what they did to UCF cross country, being a 14-point dog and just destroying them, should be a little bit more respect on the Buffs right now. But I get it, right? They want to see if Colorado's for real, especially after what happened against Nebraska. It just was not that was not a good game by them. But overall, defensively, if you've paid attention to what the Buffs have done, they look a heck of a lot better defensively than they did last season. I'll tell you that, even with all of these transfers. Colorado has put together something. Rob Livingston is putting together something special on the defense side of the ball.
Yeah, a lot of people doubted. We said this in the offseason. We know the skill. We know the quarterback. We know about the best player in the country in Hunter. We get all that. Can the offensive line be decent, and can the defense take a step forward? And both those things have happened, right? And people, well, who have they played? Well, who are they going to play, right? The Big 12 right now is kind of I don't, I'm not holding anything. You go across the country and you shut down UCF the way that they did, and obviously the comeback against Baylor and the way that they've played defense, you're exactly right. It has been really impressive. I also think it's really good for them that they are coming off of a bye, because I think it's really hard for college kids to put their success from the week. Nobody thought that they could beat UCF, right? Nobody in the
Nope.
Buffs fans, I know, we're confident. We think, you're going to win every game, but I don't think anybody in the national scene thought they could win. They were a 2-touchdown dog. UCF at home, best running game in the country. And I think it's probably good for them that they got the bye right off of that to enjoy that win, but then kind of resettle back in and refocus and kind of have that better perspective before they get into the real meat of the Big 12 schedule.
Yeah, and the one thing that Colorado's going to have to do in this Kansas State game is they're going to have to go ahead and start muscling people around, right? The offensive line is still a little shaky. Shedeur is still getting sacked a lot more than he probably should be, but that's a question of, is it the line or is it Shedeur holding the ball? But Shedeur's out there still putting up numbers, right? And then, of course, you got Travis Hunter, who's the two-side phenom, who's right now second in Heisman voting because he probably does deserve to be up there. Kid can ball. And so for the Buffs, the big thing is controlling the clock. And I still contend to this. I mean, I know that a lot of the fans don't. I've had some in the comment section say, nah, things will be all right. I feel like Colorado needs to establish a run game. I understand that Shedeur, the ball in Shedeur's hands is the best recipe because he's going to get it to those great wide receivers that they have. But being able to have a run game that can kill the clock is going to definitely be helpful for them long term. And it's going to prevent the defense from having to be on the field all the time. But you're right. Having a bye week last week going into this game, it's going to be huge for the Buffs.
So we'll talk a little bit more with Jay, but first I do want to give a little bit of love over to BetUS. You can go to YouTube. You can go to BetUS right now. Use our code that's YouTube exclusive, YouTube150 over there for a 150% deposit sign up bonus on your first deposit. your next 2 deposits, you will get 125% on each. That's up to $2,000 on your first 3. They've got the best lines in the game. They've got the best customer service in the game. Make sure that you're betting with us over at BetUS.com. We've been having a good time and appreciate them for their support this season. All right, Jay, looking at Kansas State, they've been really, really good at home. They've got a really bad road loss to BYU and then nearly lost on the road at Tulane as well. Being in Boulder is always an advantage because of how raucous that crowd gets, but it also seems like it matches up in this game pretty well and should be a pretty big help for the Buffs to be playing this one at home.
Yeah, the biggest thing here is that, Colorado is very opportunistic. They have a turnover margin of 9, so they've gotten 20 turnovers and given up 11, so they're leading the way there. Now, Kansas State is similar, right? They've gained 23 turnovers and they've lost 12, so they're at about 11 with that. But the thing is that Colorado doesn't turn over a ball a lot at home. And Kansas State turns the ball over on the road. That's how they lost to BYU. I mean, they outgained BYU in this game a lot, right? I mean, it was 367 to 241 yards in this game. And Kansas State ran all over them and still lost 38-9. And it wasn't because of, they giving up big plays on offense. They just kept turning the ball over and giving up special teams touchdowns. And so for Colorado, it's going to be about that. It's going to be about being very opportunistic. Avery Johnson's a solid quarterback, but he's a little cavalierish at moments, right? He's got 4 picks already this season, and that to me is basically what the Buffs are going to go after. And to be honest, I can totally see Avery Johnson keeping his eye on where Travis Hunter is, so that he's not throwing the ball to him, because Travis is going to be prepared to jump just about any route and any tendency that Avery Johnson shows. So Colorado wants to win this game. The way they do it is going to be to take advantage of those turnovers, and when you get them, go score.
They've also not just Avery's arms. Like, he is certainly I'm not comparing him to this player, but he certainly is like that gunslinger mentality of like Brett Favre, or like, I'm just gonna wing it and see what happens at times. But it's not just his arms, like his legs. I mean, he can run the ball too. And I do think it's something important for Colorado to be very aware of that. His legs have kept them in games at times and have absolutely been the difference in games sometimes. And he's had to take off, go when guys weren't open or when protection broke down there up front. And I think that that's something that Colorado, like, you just can't let that beat you. Like an unawareness, like you're playing man and you don't have a guy that's like spying, or you're playing in a situation and you don't keep your rush lanes, like that will be, if they just beat you because they're better, that's one thing. But just letting him loose and letting his legs be kind of what runs all over you is certainly where I think Colorado also needs to pay a pretty big amount of respect and attention to when Kansas State has the ball.
Yeah, and that's the one thing that Colorado has done well so far, right? Look, going against UCF is right now ranked 4th in the country at 282 rushing yards per game. They were over 300 per game before going up against Colorado, and Colorado held them down, and that was the reason why they beat them. They did not let them run. Kansas State, similar situation. Right now, 252 yards rushing per game in their offense is what Kansas State does. That's going to be a tall task for Colorado to stop that. If they can stop DJ Giddens and former Colorado Buffalo Dylan Edwards from breaking out, Kansas State may have problems, because, to be honest, I really like this Colorado pass defense. They've done a really good job of keeping players in front of them and not getting just dusted a lot. They do a good job of containing, and, they're prepared for a quarterback that's ready to scramble. They've been doing a good job of swarming with their tackles. And so because of that, I honestly think that Colorado has a really good chance of pulling this upset as a 6.5-point dog right now at home. I think they can pull this out. But all they got to do is make sure that Kansas State cannot run the ball.
So looking at the other side of the ball, Kansas State gave up 27 on the road to Tulane. They gave up 38 to BYU, some of that off turnovers. 20 to Oklahoma State, so a little bit better. And they did hold Arizona to 9. In a game that Arizona just, I think if you had that to play over again, I don't know that they'd play quite that poorly. But it does seem like a defense that you can kind of get off on at times. Like, it would surprise me if Kansas State's defense was able to hold Colorado under, I would be pretty surprised if Colorado couldn't score 24 or more. That's 3 or 4 scores. And then, kind of expect a little bit more even. Like, I would think that they score 28 to close to 30 plus. But yeah, what are your expectations for Shedeur in the offense? I know you talked about getting the run game, continuing to get that going, but how do you kind of see them faring against that Kansas State defense?
Yeah, I think that they won't have too much of a problem. Shedeur is considered one of the best quarterbacks in the country, especially going into the NFL draft, right? Right now he's at the top of the list, and he does a really good job of leading his wide receivers. He makes some pro throws. He can throw his wide receivers open, which is something you can see the maturity in his growth at quarterback. And so for him, it's going to be all about getting the ball to his guys in space and letting them do work, right? Don't hold the ball too long. Sometimes take a check down, right? You don't always have to get the home run play, but I think they're going to push for the home runs and push for Travis Hunter going deep. In this game, Travis will probably have about 10 catches, well over 100 yards, and I'm not sure how many touchdowns he'll get out of it, but he's definitely going to have at least 10 catches and 100 yards. This is the one game where I do believe that Colorado's going to keep the ball in Shedeur's hands, and they're going to try to push Kansas State as much as possible. They're going to bend that defense, and the question is, can they make a break?
Yeah. It's early in the week. We are certainly thinking of anybody that's in the path of this storm. We're doing this early in the week, just, again, due to that. I'm in the Tampa Bay area. And so if you're in those areas, certainly are thinking about you and praying for you. Hopefully you're staying safe or you've already evacuated if needed. But if you're watching this, hopefully this can provide you a little bit of a distraction. So, Jay, it is early in the week. Obviously, this could change. So people should certainly go check out the Prime Time for College Football here on YouTube in case your thoughts on this change at all. But do you have a lean in this? Do you have a prediction yet in this, even though it's early in the week? Like, how do you think this thing goes down?
I think Colorado pulls this one out slightly. I think the game is going to be close, similar to the Tulane game, something in the 34-27 range. But the one thing I'll give to Colorado and the way that they play defense, they're not giving up a lot of points in the second half. And Kansas State has also shown a little bit of capabilities of that outside of the BYU game. They've done a good job of a better team on the second half, but that is literally Colorado's bread and butter. And I sense that that's what they're going to be pushing, is making sure that the first half, if Kansas State does anything, they only do it there. Second half, only one score, and really buckle down and adjust well. Shout out to Robert Livingston for that defensive coordinator. He's done a good job of making those type of adjustments. But I think Colorado can pull this out with a touchdown win.
Cool. Jay, where can people follow you? Where can they find more of your content?
Yeah, the channel that I work at, Prime Time for College Football here on YouTube. So check us out. We talk a lot of Coach Prime and Colorado Buffs. Thanks for having me, TJ.
Awesome, man. Thank you. Thank you to BetUS again for the support on this. We appreciate you guys a ton for tuning in today, and we will talk to you guys soon here on the College Football Addiction.